Hi.
Is this Peter the Healer?
Yes. No, actually, I'm the audio engineer for the show, Peter the Healer, your celestial broadcaster.
Where is Peter the Healer?
That's a good question. I really don't know. I've been trying for the last 10 minutes trying to reach him, but he's not answering.
Have you tried tuning into 528 Hertz, the love frequency?
No, that's a good idea. I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. Hey, you know what? I think I'm getting some
Radio Noise.
Rádio Noise 593,
Anybody out there?
DJ e produtor brasileiro Rod Novaes.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter Desmond Kelly, host of Peter the Healer, your celestial broadcaster, the place for great interviews where I ask the questions nobody else does. And for today's guest, I have somebody just in time for Halloween. This gentleman has been for many, many years, and we'll get into more detail when we speak with him in person, many years had experiences with the paranormal. And, you know, many people say they have experiences with the paranormal, but they don't have any evidence to show it. This gentleman, however, has photographic images that he's going to show us exactly what kind of paranormal images they are. He's got a book as well that's called Living with the Paranormal. And he'll talk to you a little bit about that in a moment. But now I'm just going to read to you Living with the Paranormal from Jim Kelly, a potent account by the author who, as a young man, realized he had a sympathetic paranormal gift when he had first gotten involved with a haunted house in the 70s. And from then on continued to capture strange entities on camera around life and death sites or vortexes, all of which proves more than ever that there is a parallel world to this one. So I'm going to introduce to you my special guest, Jim Kelly. Welcome, Jim. Pleasure to have you on board in my spaceship.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
And you're coming from by way of a town, you said 65 miles south of Buffalo, New York. Am I right?
Right. Almost on the Pennsylvania line by about 8 miles.
I see. Okay. So, and you've been there most of your life.
Yes.
Is that correct? So
Yep.
You've had the opportunity, I believe, to be well situated for paranormal activity, it would seem. Can you tell us a little bit about your first encounter?
Okay. Let me kind of rewind a little bit.
Sure.
When my mom passed away in 2006, we were there, the family was there. And my wife told me, she says, she's not going to be here too long. Why don't you just, hold her hands, Well, so I did that. And the second she took her very last breath, the moment her body's life force left her, it went into my hands, up both arms, and into my head. And that was the point where I was introduced to the spirit realm or, spirit world. But it wasn't for a few months later when I realized what it really meant and what I could do.
So are you saying then that you actually felt her presence entering your body,
Yes,
your soul? You
yes,
felt it
yeah.
coming into you.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was like you walk across the carpet and you feel the static. It was sort of like that,
Okay.
the feeling of it.
Like an electrical energy.
Yeah, like
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
But then as time went by, a film crew was coming into our area and was going to do a documentary on the Hinsdale Haunted House.
Okay.
and asked me if I'd like to be, a part of it and, join it. And I said, yeah, sure. So what they did was a spirit walk. There's a pond on the land where the house sits, where they had us dress up in different periods of time and like walk up towards the house. Well, the people that lived there at the time gave them permission to do that. But then when it was all over, like a couple months later, the two people had passed away. Well, then there got to be rumors of it going to be demolished, the house. They were going to tear it down. And I thought, jeepers, I better go up there and get a couple of photographs of the house, so I got it for myself. Well, that's when things started happening. Things were showing up in the photographs. Down the road from the house is a place what they called the Hanging Tree. And back in the 1800s, it used to be a stagecoach route. And it would be like a bed and breakfast back then. The settlers that were coming through were selling like their furs or jewelry or whatever they had. Well, the owners of this inn were killing some of these people and burying them up at the top of the hill. Well, down at the bottom of the hill, there was a stepping stone, which is where they pulled their buggies up to, and people would, get out, step onto the stone to get out of their buggy and stuff. So I took a picture of that. This is it here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a lady's face coming right out of this stone.
If you can maybe hold it up closer to the screen, right up against it. Okay, so okay. Go ahead and talk to put it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Her face is coming right out of the stone.
No, okay.
Right
yes, I see it. It's right near the bottom.
Yes.
Well, actually, in the middle. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And
right
across the road from this stone is where the actual hanging tree was, where they hung a woman and stuff. That there is a portal. That's another dimension. I took my camera and I took a photo of that, and I had people in there from different time periods of time. Like back in the days of the Romans, I have two Romans in that photograph. One is holding like a sword and the other's holding a scepter, like a long thing. And then there's just all kinds of mixed up stuff in there. And that showed up and I thought, jeepers, something's funny here. I says, I got to go back up there and take some more pictures. Well, that was about a 20-minute ride up there and back. And in that short period of time, things had changed. They were different characters in the photographs. And I just couldn't understand why I was able to do this, why this things were showing up. Well, here's a picture of me and my wife and Sylvia Brown, who was a psychic.
Yes, I've heard of her. She's written many books.
She's passed away now, but she was my go-to lady. If I didn't understand something, I would get hold of her and ask her, why is this and why is that? And she says, well, the spirit world has accepted you and you can do this. It's like a gift. She said, it's not a bad thing. Well, then as time went on, I was starting to get some nasty stuff also. This here is a picture of a demon that I took. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's right dead center of the photo.
Yeah.
He's actually got fangs. And this one here was taken in Lilydale, New York. That redness is a little boy running around, but he's only half there. You can see a little speaker.
Yeah, I see the legs. The legs are kind of cut off, and then there's a red top that he's wearing.
Yes.
You want to show that up again? I just
Sure.
want to make sure that people really see that. So that would have been where exactly?
Down by Jamestown, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. Canandaigua. Yeah, it's a spiritualist community where all the psychics live and do readings and stuff year round. They invited me there to do a couple of photo presentations and lectures on the paranormal and stuff. Let's see here. Here's the photograph again with the three orbs down the road.
And tell us a little bit more about that. Those
Yep.
three orbs, are they
These-
also Jamestown?
No, this is back up towards Hinsdale, New York, where I live. And there's another couple orbs. And these two orbs seem to travel together, so I don't know if maybe they're soulmates or whatever, but they were always together, and they always would stop, and I could photograph them without having any, any blur on the camera or anything.
And just for the techno people out there, what kind of camera are you using?
Just a cheap little digital camera.
Huh, okay.
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing fancy.
Yeah.
And I always took my photographs and got them processed at
Mm-hmm.
our local Walmart. So they had a record of it and I had a record of it. So there was no messing around with the.
Okay, so you were not involved in processing at
Right.
all.
Right.
Okay, that's important for folks to know, because
Mhm.
clearly that eliminates one aspect that a lot of people that are suspicious or skeptics about this type of thing. There's been no alteration by you
Right.
in any of this. This has been done at an outside agency like Walmart, and they did all the photographs.
Right. Yeah.
They printed them out. Wow. Okay.
Then we had a gentleman here in the hometown
Hmm.
who had a distant relative that was in the Civil War, and he was like 20 and he got killed and he died in the concentration camp. So he wanted to have an actual burial back here for him to kind of honor him.
Okay.
He
When you
asked me
say,
if
I'm
I'd-
sorry to interrupt, but when you say concentration camp, we're thinking Germany. We're thinking Nazi
Oh,
Germany.
Oh, no, this
Are you
during our
implying?
Civil War,
Okay, in the Civil War.
between
Okay,
the
so
North and the South.
it was a regular, army
Yeah,
camp
right.
or prison. Okay, prisoner
So
of
I
war.
told him,
Okay.
I would come and do a video and take pictures. But I told him, I says, look, when I'm done, there's things that are going to show up in here and you're going to wonder what they are. So, but anyway, here's one of the photos I took. And you can see this gravestone here,
Mm-hmm.
the dark part on the bottom. About 8 or 9 Union shoulder soldiers came out of that stone, and they were all dressed in their dress blues. And if you had this photograph in your hand, you would actually see their faces and their heads across
Wow,
the stone here.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you know what I'm feeling now? I've got the pins and needles and my hair just came out from my legs.
Uh-huh.
Can you show that again? I mean, wow.
Sure.
And say a few words so your image will come
Oh,
on the
yeah.
screen.
Yeah,
There we
this
go.
is the Union officers, and that's how they would dress up back in, if there was a real funeral, they dress up in their dress blues.
My goodness. Wow. And that's a regular like a tombstone,
Yes,
right?
and it
Gray
had,
tombstone, and then you have superimposed on that somehow
yes.
their images.
And what they did,
Ooh.
they had a time capsule, and in that time capsule, they had dirt from the farm where he grew up. They had money from his pay, and they also had soil from the land and letters that he had written home. Well, I went and I took a picture of that, and you'll see American flag, and if you'll see 3 faces under the American flag on the ground, and they're all looking each way. But if you can trying to get this where probably.
Yeah, just behind the base of the flag,
Yes.
I'm seeing these images. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yep.
Hmm.
They
Okay.
were all looking in a different direction. Now this one here, my brother, he's passed away now, but he had a gray entity attached to him, which was bad. What they do, they attach themselves to someone who is a compulsive warrior, a drinker, or into drugs or something, you know, and they just suck the life out of the body. But I don't know if you can see this or not, but he's right in bed next to my brother. It's a little gray creature. He's got pointed ears. Yeah, I'm trying to, looking backwards here at it. I don't know if it can, that's a hard one.
Okay, that's your brother lying there, and to his right, you're saying about where his waist is.
Yes,
That's where the image is. Can you show it again?
sure.
And say a few words.
Yeah, this is what they call the gray entity. I didn't know what it was. I got a hold of Sylvia Brown, and she explained to me that this is the gray entity. Now, there's a gray entity and there's a dark entity. The dark entity is a demon that talks people, say, like into suicide or on drugs. You know, he's the worst of them, the dark one. This one's not quite as bad. But if a person got their body in control of what the problems were that were bothering them, this thing would actually leave and go on to another candidate. And
what is their purpose?
just to take someone's life or make their life miserable. It preys on their weakness. Yeah, they're very vulnerable.
I was all, just to interrupt a moment, I thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about your work. You're actually working with suicide people, right? You're helping prevent
Yes,
suicide.
I'm using my more demonic photographs with that.
Okay.
That's my key thing, is my photographs. I sit down with them
Okay.
one-on-one. I tell them, say, what's the problem? What do you, I have like a chart, and it says, which one of these describes you the best, why you want to do what you want to do.
Okay.
And then I tell them, I said, well, you don't really want to do this, because I says, these are the kind of things you're going to end up with for eternity. You're going to be gone, and there's no way to get you back.
Wow.
And I've interviewed probably 24, and out of the 24, I've got 100% success rate. Sometimes the parents will come with them, and I don't want to know their last names, just their first name and their age. And then I go into my thing. I mean, I have no degree on this, nothing like that. It's just the actual photographs. And
it is kind of like scare therapy.
Yeah, you scare the bejesus out of you, what you do. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it works. 100% success rate. So
yeah.
Who can argue with that?
We're into October now, so we're going to start getting towards the holiday season.
Yeah, that was a question I had for you. I'm glad you brought it up. I mean,
going to be an increase in
you notice that at this time of year, there's a higher incident rate of demon appearances. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Halloween really is, I mean, we make fun of it and we do all kinds of outlandish things, and there's all kinds of movies, horror movies, what have you. But in a way, I think this is how we try to deal with the reality that there are actual entities out there that are trying to possess or really, create havoc in our human existence.
Right. And the young people today are so vulnerable.
How so?
To the demons that it doesn't take much for them to get into their heads and stuff. There's so much temptation out there, the drugs and everything and stuff like that. And these creatures prey on people.
Do you think part of the problem is that there's a sense that it doesn't exist, that people feel, that's all a bunch of nonsense, it doesn't exist?
Oh yeah, I've talked to people like that, and then they've come back and they've seen otherwise after they've seen my photographs. They say, you're for real, aren't you? And I says, absolutely. I says, I got a special gift.
Good for you.
I mean, the best use that I can.
I come from, I don't know if you've read up my biography, but I come from a background of helping people as a psychologist. So I say, good for you. You're using some kind of a method that works And, you're not trying to explain away all of these apparitions as something, the figment of somebody's imagination.
Right.
You're dealing with it as a reality.
Yes.
I
didn't ask for this, but
Mhm.
I decided, hey, I'm going to embrace this. If I can do this, maybe I can do some good out of it,
Yeah.
So,
Well, good for you.
if
Okay,
you-
let's see what else you have there.
okay, here are three, I don't know what I would call them, entities that came out of our mirror at home. And then there's another person like they're talking to right there. I don't know if you can see him or not.
Yeah, the 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 kind of whatever they are, 5 things that are going up from the.
Right. And then there's a main one down below, like they're
Okay.
looking down to him. This was taken right in our house.
Now, what would you say those are?
Something more on the spiritual side.
Okay, it's more because that was the feeling I had, that they're more angelic.
Yeah, angelic.
More positive.
Yeah, that's usually the word that I
Gold.
use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, now this one here, I took out in our backyard. And I'm gonna, let's see. In this corner over here, there is a picture. I don't know if it's Jesus Christ or if it's one of his disciples, but it's definitely somebody from the biblical time. It's right in the corner here.
Can you hold it steady? It's very hard. If both your hands, just hold it there and put it against the screen. Okay, and say a few words so we see it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the photograph right here, and right in the corner by the grass.
Okay, bring it back just a few inches. Okay, now talk.
He's a biblical person, either a disciple or God himself, but he just showed up right there.
Okay.
I mean, if you had this photo in your hand, it would blow your mind.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me, Jim, just before we go on, Jim and I share the same last name, as it would
Yeah.
happen, and talk about meaningful coincidences. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, and even before I went into the field of psychology, I wanted to go into parapsychology, but I wasn't able to find such an institution up in Canada, so I went into psychology. But I've always been connected with the spiritual sense of the world, and have since left the profession of psychology, and I'm now calling myself a holistic therapeutic healer and teacher, because I use the spiritual realm every time I work with someone.
Right.
So I recognize that ultimately the greatest source for healing energy comes from the spirit realm, the dimensions that are part of the spiritual realms. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So here you and I are both with the same last name. I know it's not up on the screen, but you have Jim Kelly. My name is Peter Desmond Kelly, and it's very interesting. I don't think we're related, in terms of, well, somewhere in the past, I guess we are related, but I certainly think that we have some kind of a spiritual,
My
connection.
great-grandfather, he was actually from Canada.
Huh?
My
Wow.
great-grandfather came from Canada. Yeah.
Do you remember which part of Canada he came from?
I want to say Quebec, up in that area.
Well, that's where I live.
Well, yeah. So you never know.
Yeah, well, we're basically, physically, New York borders with Quebec. in Canada. So
Yes.
it's
Yep.
not far. In fact, you know what? We just moved recently. Okay,
Oh.
only a month ago, and I am now facing the window in my office, and I can see Mount Washington
Oh, wow.
from here. Can you believe it? It's
Jeepers.
huge. It's beautiful, right on the horizon. So that just shows you how close
Yeah.
we are physically, geographically.
Mhm.
All right, great. So I thought I would put in a few questions here about you.
Okay.
Personally, I believe you were brought up Christian, pretty devout Christian. Am I right?
You're right. Yes, I
And
was.
may I ask which faith, which particular denomination?
Methodist.
Okay, so when you were growing up, what was the way people perceived what you're doing? I mean, how did your religious organization look at this type of stuff?
Just more of the spiritual part of religion. How do I want to word this? Like through my photographs, I get both. I get the spiritual stuff and I get the nasty stuff. And I assume that's for a reason, because like I'm on a mission. I want to get my story out there. A lot of people have bought the book, including a lot of people that are incarcerated in prison, have gotten back to me through their relatives saying, this guy's for real. You know, he knows what he's talking about, you know.
And
What it
when
boils
you
down
say,
to is where do you want to go when your time is done, heaven or hell? You know, it's, you got to make that choice now, not later, because you don't come back for an encore. You got one chance at this, and it's up to you.
what kind of nasty stuff are you referring to? You get some feedback that's nasty.
The demonic photographs that I've got, and I think
Okay.
that was for a reason. I think it's for me to show people that, hey, there's good and there's evil out there.
So it's not so much people that are being very like trolls and telling you this is all a bunch of nonsense.
Oh,
and,
no, no.
You're not getting that kind of feedback. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
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 People are open-minded with regards to what you're presenting.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you're as you say, you believe that this is like we have one chance to make it right, and if we don't make it right, we're going to end up in hell.
That's what I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the belief then is that these are actual examples of hell, these demons that are
Exactly.
coming out. Okay.
Yes.
Now you, I mean, having had to live with this for quite some time now, since the 70s, what is the scariest? What was the scariest thing that happened to you when you were doing your photography, your investigations?
The scariest thing I would say is when I realized what I had photographed, the portal, the other dimension. I think that's what really scared me, because that opened my eyes. I thought, how can I do this? How can I photograph something that's happened back in time? My camera almost acts like a time machine and things like that, because there's it's just hard to explain. I mean, if somebody could sit down and go through my photographs, they would turn white. They would, how do you do this, Jim? How is this possible? And I got it right here.
Well, I'm telling you what I've seen so far, even if sometimes it's hard to make it out. I told you, you know, the hair was standing up on my legs when I saw some of those photos, like especially the one with the tombstones where you had this regiment of officers, former Civil War soldiers, showing on top, and all of these people are buried in that cemetery.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to take that back. Probably the scariest thing, because it caught me completely off guard. I came home one day and this demon was up in the clouds and I saw it and I photographed. I took a picture. Well, a second later, there was like a sonic boom. That thing completely disappeared. I took my camera again and I aimed it up at the sky. I took another picture. And what I believe I've captured was an archangel. I think it came and it terminated that thing. And that's the only photograph that I have that I want to get authenticated. And I've got an arrangement set up with a psychic that she's a specially in photo analyst. They pick apart the photograph, and I've already taken the photograph to our local conservation department, and they have said that this is not a bird of any kind because the wings on it on the back are together. And they said this photograph actually defies the laws of physics because there's no bird or anything that can stay up in the air and not come down. Because when I took the photograph, there's no blur to it. Like that little boy running, you could see like the little blur. Well, this thing stood perfectly still. And they said, in our estimation, if that was down on the ground, those wings got to be between 4 and 5 feet wide. And they came together on its back. And I'm going to try to show you that photograph if I can.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. Let's have a look.
I kept getting it enlarged. First it went to a 5x7, then an 8x10, and an 11x14. Let's see. Okay. It's if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I can see it.
Right there.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And okay.
But like I said, if you've got this photograph right in your hand, you can actually see 2 legs coming down and a human head on the thing. And then the breast part is kind of shiny. And I'm guessing that's maybe some kind of armor or something. But anyways, after I took this photograph, it stood there and actually, I think, waited for me to take the photograph. It stayed there. So it just didn't move. But when it left, it shot up like a rocket. It went through a cloud and it went so fast through that cloud that it actually made a hole in that cloud. I mean, it just cleared it right out. And this photograph has bothered me for over a year now. And I want to get it analyzed, authenticated that, hey, yeah, you got something here that's not of this world.
Well, Jim, I can certainly authenticate something that you said. As a professional psychologist back in 1997, 98, there were a lot of things happening during that year. You also had it in New York. A huge ice storm happened in January of 98, February. But I was working with a client who had multiple personalities. And this was like, I didn't learn any of this in a textbook at university, because I've always been connected with spiritual. I was being guided on how to help this woman. And she presented a number of different personalities, some of which were spiritual, one of which was actually a nun. The other were multiple faces of evil. Okay. Now, there was a house. I went into the house that she was living because she said she was having all kinds of visions of dark entities, very, very, evil sounds and noises. So I performed an exorcism. Now, was I ever taught how to do an exorcism? No, but I was guided by the nun on what to do, and I was opening up myself to the channeling from positive love and the light of God. And I performed the exorcism. Telling you, you know, what happened after there was a sonic boom. That's what you just said a moment ago. A
Yes.
sonic boom
Yep.
took place, and it evacuated the entire residence of evil. There were candles on the windowsills, regular candles, and they had bent over. Okay, they were bent over like this towards the window. Okay, so we're talking about a force that, the way you described it, sonic boom. I mean, it's so powerful. Everything is affected physically. Things fell off the shelves.
Oh yeah, the repercussions of
There
it.
was an incredible type of effect. And so I just thought I'd throw that in there because I'm authenticating something that you just said, and I experienced in doing this exorcism. So, wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So, wow, what else have you got there?
Oh, jeepers. Getting back to the orbs, this one showed up in our house one night. Can you see it there?
Yeah. Yeah.
That actually turned into a face. That's why it gets my goat when people say, well, what are orbs? And they say, well, they're just energy things, or, you know, they're just, well, no, at least all of my orbs got faces in them, and I'll argue right to the end with them. And if need be, I'll show them the photographs, you know.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, what you alluded to earlier when you got the information when it was your grandmother who died, and you received the gift of perception, where you have been chosen to actually observe and photograph these types of entities and orbs, and they're coming to you. And I wonder, I know your wife is there somewhere, but I just wanted to get a sense of how she is handling all this.
Very good. She was a little skeptic at first, you know, because I'd give her the camera and would let her take photographs, and nothing would show up. Give it back to Jim, and then there they are. I can't take a normal photograph at a wedding or a graduation because these things are in there. It just, so I'm very careful of what and where I photograph. Yeah. But yeah, she's handled it real good, and I can't say she's into it, but she helps me out a lot.
She's never threatened to take you to a psychiatrist or something
No,
like that if you don't stop this silly nonsense.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No, she's real good.
Well, you know, I take my hat off to her for supporting you and also helping you get connected on the internet.
Well, I mean, she's my little technical engineer for this stuff.
It's so challenging. My goodness, I've had so many challenges on the internet. Terrible.
Yeah.
So, wow. And so we have, you have this book. I'm going to see if I can put it up there for the folks. I have an image of it somewhere. Hold on. And we'll put something up here in a moment. Okay, there we go. And
oh yeah.
How do you like that?
She actually took that picture of me right there. And I'm sitting in the same chair now as
okay.
When he took it.
I'm going to just, you know, get out of this a little bit.
Oh yeah.
There you are. And you're sitting there with your book. This is my favorite photo of you. I think it's great. Got your cross, and the cross, of course, is I understand because I wear it too, although it's not visible right now. But I do believe that there's some kind of an energy that is coming through that.
Yes,
as
this
well,
cross
right?
was a Christmas gift, and it's also been blessed.
When you look at the different movies that Hollywood has made on exorcisms, what is your take on that? Do you believe that it's well done, or are
I
there
think it's
some
pretty close to the
pretty close?
real thing. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this time especially, have you ever been part of anything like that?
No, thank
Okay.
goodness. No.
Yeah, that's
But a lot of
it's
people will go down through my timeline and they'll see that photo and they'll click it on, and I'll get back and I'll say, yeah, this is me checking over one of my complimentary copies from Covenant Books. And so they know.
and Covenant Book is, of course, a Christian
Yes.
organization, publishing house,
Yeah.
and of course they've have an interest, obviously, in trying to help people to understand the spiritual realm and to respect that there's actually a spiritual realm. And that spiritual realm is good and evil. It has
Yes.
both elements
Yes.
that exist. So I think there's a need to, at this Halloween time, to think of that and to connect with the higher power. What kinds of like when you do your work, I'm sure you have some kind of prayer rituals that you use.
Oh, I have the St. Michael's prayer,
Okay, very good.
Archangel.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Well,
questions I get asked a lot is, what do I think of Ouija boards? I said, they're bad. I said, you can bring evil stuff through them and you can't get it back to go back in. I mean, evil people like try to contact their relatives using the Ouija board. And in doing that, you have the demons that are also going to hear you trying to contact somebody, and they can come through as that person because they'll try to deceive you, make you think otherwise.
mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've had experience with that. I did recordings, of course, at the time, and the tape recordings themselves, you can tell they were looked at by a well-known psychic reverend in Montreal, and she listened to them and she said, definitely this person is channeling a lot of stuff. There was static on the tape.
Mm-hmm.
Now both, and I recorded her in two different locations with two separate recording devices. They both showed static. So that's showing at the moment of entry when those entities came into that person's spiritual entity. So it's just to show, I mean, there is physical evidence. You're showing obviously the visual with your photographs. I've got evidence of auditory evidence. And so, yeah, this is important for people to realize that it's not just some hokey pokey, stupidity that was dreamed up during, the Middle Ages when there was a lot of ignorance and people didn't really understand things, and then science took over. But we're talking about scientific proof here.
Right. Over where my parents are buried in Pennsylvania, there's a graveyard across the road, which is all really, really old Civil War. People are buried there, and just from way back in time. And there was this one stone that said, our three children on it, and I was going to photograph that. And I thought, nah. A second later, I felt a tug in the back of my jacket, and there was no bushes around or nothing to do that. It just felt like somebody was pulling me. And I thought, yeah, you better step back and take a photograph. So I took photograph of that stone, and on the bottom of it were like two little children on the very bottom of it, like maybe 4, maybe 5 years old. So I assume they passed away because of some disease or something. But,
Yeah, and I'm sensing from you that you feel something. There's something when you actually have these kinds of images that you're taking and you see them. It really affects you emotionally.
yeah, if somebody dropped me off on a road somewhere and told me to walk somewhere, I would know where to photograph something and where not to. I can tell the difference. I'm like a transmitter to the spirit world.
I'm also thinking of people that have not pendulums, but they have these kind of water sticks. The sticks where they
Dowsing rods?
Yeah, dowsing rod that tells them where water is. You're like a dowsing rod, your body, your mind,
Yeah.
that picks up where these spiritual entities are.
Yeah.
And wow, that's quite something.
My son, he had a girlfriend, and she wanted me to take a picture of her up down where the hanging tree was and stuff. I says, probably not going to like what's going to show up. He says, go ahead. So I took a picture. What do you think was on her head? A snake curled up. Yeah. Yeah. And she got so fascinated over it that she did a report on me at one of our local colleges that she was going to down here, did a book report on it, and she got an A for it. And she says, could you introduce us to this guy? So she finally did. And then I did a lecture down at their college on it and, showed pictures and stuff. It's so much better when you got photographs to back up what you're telling people. It's like, this guy, is he blowing smoke, or is this guy for real? I thought, well, there you go.
Well, you definitely have thrilling information, and I bet your book is what will people be able to look forward to when they get a copy of your book.
Yeah, it's got a message to it in the very end. It's got a message to it, and it especially applies to the way the world is and what's going on in it right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little preview of your summation of what's happening in the world now and how that connects to all the work you've been doing?
Well, the clock is ticking, and our time here is getting shorter and shorter, and you got to make a decision, which way am I going to go, and the choice is up to the people that are reading it. I just wish I could sit down with every single person that bought the book and show them the photographs. That would really be something. I mean, I'm only one person. I can only do so much, and I'm trying to do the best I can. Covenant Books has helped me out. They've given it a second push. And in the last month, I've gotten over 2,000 friend requests.
Wow.
And I try to respond to each, and every one of them.
Do you have in your book, does it contain a number of the pictures that you've been showing us?
No, there was no I didn't put any pictures in the book.
Okay.
I just wanted to keep it what I've experienced and what has happened.
Okay. So I'm assuming, what I'm reading.
And I got to be careful of piracy of them too.
Exactly. That's
because
what I'm
come to people and what they're doing at home, they'll sit down and run them off on their printer.
Yeah.
And then take them somewhere and say, hey, you see what I got?
Yeah, it's unfortunate with today's digital age, electronic age. I mean, piracy is totally rampant, and there's no way they can stop it. So I understand. Even if you put a copyright or some kind of thing on it, it doesn't stop people from copying digital things. So I understand why you didn't send them to me in digital format. But that what will happen, like the legacy of Jim Kelly, how are you going to archive all of this information? Have you thought about that?
Uh, no, I really haven't. But how I did everything was when something happened, I wrote it down, what the date was and everything. And it just got to be so much that I thought, I'm going to put this into a little book, you know, everything that has happened that I've experienced. In fact, Sylvia Brown suggested that I should do something like that because she herself had never seen photographs like I took and showed her. She was quite amazed.
Yeah, well, certainly what you're showing here and everything that you're telling me about, because, you know, the sonic boom that you described,
Yeah.
The visceral experience that I went through when I viewed some of the photographs that you showed, you know, it really, you know, is involuntary, you know. And I think that when a person has that kind of reaction, it is resonating some kind of a truth. It's sort of confirming the reality of what you are showing as proof that there are things there. And you've been privy to this. Why do you think they chose you?
I don't know. I just guessed that I was destined to do it. People have said to me, says, well, what are you going to do when you retire? And I thought, well, I don't know, you know, and well, I guess I know now what my motive is, you know, if I can help save a soul out there, just one, then the whole ride, the whole time has been worth it.
And Jim, you brought up retirement. What was the profession? Or what is the profession?
I worked at a cutlery.
Okay.
Cutlery down in Olean, New York. It's called Cutco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, what were the chances of somebody walking into a donut shop and asking me if I wanted to be in the documentary film, knowing that I could do what I could do, you know, and then they have me up there. I mean, it's like it was all planned out. And, you know.
Well, God has a plan. Eh?
Yes.
Definitely a plan. I mean, and all the different kinds of signs or indications seem to be brought to people, you know, in everyday kinds of, you know, vocations, you know, from all walks of life, but they seem to be not as much for people who've, let's say, gone into a more intellectual or more, you know, rational kind of job, because I guess they realize that, well, these kinds of people are probably going to be too intellectual and too suspect of this. However, there was a gentleman, you might have heard of him by the name of Ibn Alexander, neurosurgeon, Proof of Heaven. He wrote a book.
Yes. Are you familiar with the movie Heaven is for Real?
Heaven is for Real. Rings a bell.
Yeah,
was that out a number of years ago?
Yeah, it was about Colton Burpo, a little boy that went to heaven on the operating table and came back again.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm friends with his dad.
The real dad.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Todd,
I remember seeing
Burpo. Yes.
I remember seeing that movie, and at first the
Yeah.
father and mother, of course, were totally surprised, but they were in a very kind of strict kind of religious community, and they wanted to finally bring this out as proof.
Right, because they kept it in for a while, and Yeah, he
And not
says,
everyone was receptive to that.
yeah, yeah. He says, what my son went through and what you're capable of doing. He says, I'd love to see some of your photographs, but he lives out in Imperial, Nebraska, and I'm way
Okay.
out here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. So you've connected with quite a few people, and that seems
yeah,
to be another thing that fascinates me is that when people are in this field and are open to this reality, there's this guiding light that connects them with like-minded people.
hmm
And me, you with the father of this guy who was on the operating table and
yeah,
went to heaven, came back. Um, and of course Sylvia Brown. Yeah, and I think that the thing about that is that kind of synchronicity is one of the hallmarks of how God works, how the
hmm
higher spirit works, is it gives support to those people that are courageous enough, and it requires a certain amount of courage, what
oh
you're
yeah,
doing,
yeah,
courageous enough to pursue what you believe is important to help others and to provide the information that is required to make people realize we're not just talking about ghosts
right,
and we're not just talking about these made up things. We're talking about the paranormal. However, the word paranormal is a misnomer as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think that it's not normal. I think that it is normal.
hmm
Normal in the sense that it exists. It is part
right,
of reality. It's just
yeah,
another part of our reality that we don't necessarily see all the time.
yeah,
But you've been chosen certainly to see it and to record it. And to me, that's quite a wonderful uh, chosen vocation that you are in. And I hope that we hear more of you. And I give you, I wish to you as much success as possible because you're doing great things.
When I first went down to our county sheriff's office and brought this subject up about suicide prevention, I told him I'd like to help, and I told him what I could do. I wished you could have been there when I took some of my photographs. I thought I was going to have to put his eyeballs back in their sockets because
Mm,
he
mm,
was just overwhelmed with what he was looking at.
mm,
He
mm,
says, "Yep, if that don't do it, nothing will, Jim."
mm.
Okay. Oh, but, yeah.
Wow. So tell me, before we close, how can people get in touch with you?
Through the internet.
Okay,
It's
so they can go to your, if I post your feedback, not the feedback, but your Facebook page
mhm.
information, that would do it. Is that enough, or should
That
I
would
put other things up there
that would
for
do
you?
it, or you could put in spirit photographer Jim Kelly. That'll pop my story up.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Yep.
Well, I thank you. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much for
Well, thank you because you're
your
giving me exposure, and that's what I want, and that's what I
okay,
need.
great. Well, I'll
Get
post
the
this.
more I can get this out there, the better. It's going to help people in the
My
long.
pleasure to do that. I will post it up on all my social media pages. I'll send you a copy, of course, and I'll put the coordinates for how people can get in touch with you, how to buy the
Sure.
book,
Yep.
and I guess that's it. God bless.
You too.
All
Thank you.
right. Take care.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye.